I'm Sarah Mayberry, and I'm here with Dawn from The Minimal Mom. Dawn, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Thank you, Sarah. This is awesome.
I've come up with this project. I can't decide if it's a good idea or a bad idea, if I've gone insane. I'm planning to try and declutter my basement and some
Okay.
significant parts of my house in a 2 week, like, mass decluttering project. What are your thoughts on this idea?
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you done much decluttering up to this point? Like, do you have decluttering muscles built up, like we like to talk about?
I do. I've been successful with small projects, but
Okay.
my problem, which I feel like a lot of people have the same problem, is like I just don't have that long periods of time to
Mhm.
devote to decluttering. And so
Right.
I feel like I'm not making progress on the big jobs.
Okay. As long as you have some decluttering under your belt, then I think you can be successful. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to everybody getting started out because decision fatigue is real. And you've probably experienced this in your decluttering that when we go to declutter, we're faced with every wrong decision we've ever made, every wrong buying decision. I shouldn't have bought that. I shouldn't have bought that. Why did I get this? And so it's a exhausting process. And so that's where sometimes doing like 15-minute chunks to get started is wise, but I think you can do this in 2 weeks.
I I feel like it's kind of like my thesis project. Like I've spent a long time studying decluttering and doing assignments. I've
Okay.
followed Cast from Clutterbug for many years. I'm part of the project that you guys have together, Take Your House Back, which I think has been so helpful to so many people. I think you're very inspiring. The reason I wanted to talk to you specifically is about your idea of inventory. Can you
Mm.
explain what that is and how it pertains to our houses?
Yeah. So my family and I we became minimalists about 9 years ago, and throughout the first year, I decluttered about 85% of the stuff in our house, and I realized through that process that everything in our house is inventory that we have to manage, and most of us as women. We're the chief inventory managers in our homes. And so, if you have ever felt overwhelmed or unorganized, get really down on yourself that you can't stay on top of it, I would say there's nothing wrong with you. You are just trying to manage too much inventory. And so you're not unorganized, you're not messy, you're not lazy. It's just simply too much. And so if we can kind of shift how we're looking at this stuff and look at it as inventory, it's all stuff that I have to manage and organize and take care of. For most of us, that helps us then to realize, okay, I have to reduce the inventory if there's any chance of me staying on top of my house.
So I really feel, yeah, I feel that because like I'm never going to be a minimalist. Like I do like having a certain amount of stuff around, but I notice like it is too much. I mean, there's too many clothing options, like there's too much laundry. Like it's just not possible to do it all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Or decorations. Like I was putting out the Christmas decorations, and there's just too much. Like there's more than
Yeah.
we could ever use in one house.
Hmm. And,
Well,
for most of us, we're never taught how to manage inventory or how much we should have. We just kind of have everything we registered for when we got married and things we've gotten at thrift stores and things we think we should need to run a household. And most of us just don't know that it is possible to live with much less and still live a very full and happy life.
talk to about the silent to-do list because that's another
Uh,
thing that I just like. I feel in my soul, Dawn.
Yeah. So there's a really great book by Fumio Sasaki called Goodbye Things. And in that book, he proposes that all of these physical items in our home are sending out a message. So everything is sending some kind of message like pick me up, organize me. So if you have dirty dishes by the sink, they're saying wash me, put me away, take care of me. Laundry on the floor says put me in the washing machine, wash me, fold me, put me away. And so when we look around our house, it's obviously we're not audibly hearing it, but all of these messages are getting sent out of all the things we need to do, and it accumulates into a silent to-do list. And again, I do think this is something that resonates more with women, because it's scientifically proven that women are actually more affected by clutter than men. And I do think it is because of this silent to-do list for most of us. Again, if we're going to make generalizations, we're the ones that have to take care of it. It's talking to us. It's not talking to anyone else in the house. And so when I've shared this message before, a lot of women will say, "Well, it's not a silent like to-do list. My house isn't just talking to me. My house is screaming at me because there is so much stuff, and now I understand why it feels so stressful."
And I know you've dug into some of the research into like the impact that having clutter can have
Mhm.
on us, physically, emotionally. Share a little bit of that because I think that that's really ultimately why it's worth decluttering is
Yeah.
because of the impact it's having.
Yeah. So again, I mean, scientifically proven that clutter causes the stress hormone cortisol to be released. So we literally feel stressed out by looking at clutter. And many of us, when it's in our own home, we've gotten kind of used to it. Maybe we're clutter blind. We don't really see it anymore. But whether you're actually registering it or not, you are feeling it. Your body is responding to it. And it kind of just feels like that low buzz of anxiety, of unsettledness. We always kind of feel like, why can't I just let my guard down in my house? And this might be one of the factors for that. And so I think it's never been more important because we live in such a noisy, busy, chaotic world. Everywhere we go, things are vying for our attention and in our face and selling us things and yelling at us that we need a place to come home to where we can let down our guard and feel safe. And that's what lets us to like fully exhale, to be able to relax and to reset because we're resilient. Like we can tackle the world if we have time to reset and recharge. And again, for most of us, if we're in a really cluttered space, we're not actually getting that full rest and recharge. We're just going from one type of busy and chaotic to another in our own home.
That sounds all too familiar, and that is a lot of the impetus for this. You have 4 kids that are actually the exact same range of ages as my 3 kids. What are some of the challenges about kids clutter?
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of my clutter, but I also have a
Yep.
lot of things that belong to them.
Yeah, I think, kids and toys and their art projects and their clothes, I think it's very misunderstood because kids, from everything I've researched and experienced and talked with other women about, kids are minimalists at heart. If you look at how kids develop and grow and play, they need very little. But we have all of this marketing that says you need this toy and this educational enrichment thing, and they have to wear these clothes if they're going to school. And so all of this marketing is sending us this message that good moms have all of this stuff, where if we would really just go back to the basics, kids are most content and happy and at ease when they're creating. And so they're using their imaginations. And you know that. You've experienced that with your kids. When they're fully engrossed in play, like you walk up and you're like, "Hey, we're going to do that." And like they don't even hear you because they are just so into it. They're not fighting. They're getting along with their siblings. That is it's magical, right? But what do? We like bring in all these toys and they're noisy and they're loud and they're clutter. How do we expect our kids to be creative and imaginative and engrossed in play in that? It does the opposite. They fight, they don't ever fully get engaged in something. They bounce from one toy to the next. They come to you, I'm bored with solve this problem for me. And so as we have gotten rid of almost all of our kids' toys. I mean, hardly any that we keep anymore. Some blocks and Legos. Our kids have never been happier and more content. And you would think they'd be saying, "Where are all my toys? I miss them." They don't miss them at all. And that's where again I think as adults we overcomplicate it. Our kids don't even want all of this stuff. They sometimes think they do, but again, our kids don't know like what they need right now. So if we will highly simplify it, they're going to be so much better off for it.
And I will admit, like part of the attachment to some of the toys is it's sentimental on my
Mhm.
part. I mean, I
Totally.
I I'm a very sentimental person, which is one of my biggest challenges in
Okay.
decluttering things. And I know you are not by nature, but I know that some of the people in your life are.
Mhm.
So how have you helped people who do have that attachment to things
Yeah.
like work through that?
Yeah. So one tool that we really like to recommend is a memory box. So we ideally you would have a memory box or bin, like a Rubbermaid container for every person in your household. And this is where the most special things go. But what's magical about it is that there's a boundary to it. There's a limitation to it. We can't keep all of the super special things, but we can keep the most special things. And I have one child who is even more attached to things than the others. And so we have his memory box, and he puts some things in there, and I have say like things I want to keep from his childhood. But then he also has a treasure bin. And so if there's any little things that he wants to keep, then he has his treasure bin and he gets to put it in there. The only rule is that the lid has to fit on it. So every once in a while we flip it over because the stuff at the bottom is usually what he's forgotten about. We let go a few of those things so the lid fits on. And then we continue to use that like limit. And so similarly, a memory box, it's communicating to you like, hey, we can't keep everything because that's overwhelming and that's not enjoyable. And if we keep everything, then nothing's special. Like we know that logically, right? But here is a really safe space to put all of the most special things. And I really like to look at it as I'm curating a special collection for my kids that then someday they'll get to take with them. I have my own where I put super special stuff, but each of them has theirs because no adult child says, wow, I wish my mom had saved all of my art projects and clothes and trophies. They don't, right? But if I can say, here, I have curated what I believe was the most special of special, you put some things in there too. Like now you get to take this with you. How cool that they can share that with their spouse and their kids and other people, important people in their life. And that's a gift. Bins and bins of old stuff, that's a burden. But this curated collection, that's a gift.
And I think that's a really like noble goal. Like I think that's what I'm really gonna try to keep in my mind is like making it an amount that we can go through and look at regularly
Mhm.
because right now like we are not enjoying those things
Yeah.
because they are the special things are buried under layers of
Yes.
other like
Mhm.
special but not as special things.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um so I'm already envisioning the moment when I'm down in the basement and like the overwhelm sets in.
Mhm.
Um what tools or recommendations do you have for like working through that like oh god what have I done like
Yeah.
moment? Because I feel it, I know it's coming.
Well, Dana from a slob comes clean and she'll say, just start with trash first. So just go in looking for obvious garbage. Oh, there's some boxes from things we got. Looking for obvious donation. Oh, there's some toys that the kids have outgrown or broken or that we just clearly don't need. And what's really fascinating is if you'll just look for, like this kind of like obvious layer of stuff, the garbage, the stuff that's broken, clearly donatable, and then also for stuff that has a home, like clearly I'm going to keep this. Like I use my crock pot, every other month for this. So we kind of have those two ends of the spectrum. Like, duh, obviously this is going to go. And of course we're going to keep this. If you will start with those things first. So don't start with the sentimental stuff. Don't start with the baby stuff or the photo albums. Just push those aside for now. I'm just hunting for the easy stuff first. And what you're going to find is through that process, you're refamiliarized with everything that's down there because we build it all up to be really special and hard decisions when we actually get down there and a lot of it, I would say at least 50% of it's going to fall into one of those two categories very easily. So right there, half of the stuff could be taken care of, but you're not thinking that way. You're just thinking like, oh, it's all going to be hard, right?
That's definitely true. Um, so what am I missing? What have you
Mhm.
come across as you've helped people that like you found really helpful for them?
Well, I think we try to do this alone, and I think if we could recruit someone else to help, that can be a game changer for a couple of reasons. For accountability, to say, "Hey, Monday morning after the kids go to school, like I am diving in no matter what." And it's amazing how just having someone there with you in the ADHD community, they call this body doubling, like literally just having someone else around. And the cool thing is, it can be done virtually. You could have someone on FaceTime or call a friend or whatever. Um, but I think that could, like, really be helpful. Also, though, they can help you talk through things. So when you come to something and you're like, "Well, I got this to go camping, and I really thought our family was gonna love camping, and we're not, but maybe when the kids get a little bit older, or they might go on a Boy Scout trip," or and we start running
Mhm.
all the reasons why we should still probably keep it, they can say, like, But hey, are you for sure going this coming year? Like in 2024, are you for sure going? And you could say like, no, I don't, not probably not for sure, you know, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to pass that on for now. And then when you do come back to this again, you could borrow it. You could find one on Marketplace for really inexpensive. But right now, like your house is suffocating you. Like there's not peace in this space right now. So we're going to prioritize peace, organization, being able to find what we need over you trying to keep everything for someday right now.
That is really good advice, and I think there is gonna be a lot of, like, fantasy self-clutter in the
Mhm.
basement. Explain to people, like, what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, so we all accumulate this fantasy self stuff, and it's for the person we hope we can be, think we should be, thought we could be, and so it can come in the form of exercise equipment, camping, hobby stuff. If you want to go back to school and you're keeping all the books. A lot of teachers will often say, I retired, but I still have all my old curriculums. What if I sub, or what if I could pass it on to another teacher? And so it takes a lot of different forms. It looks a little bit different for everyone. But if we will look at this and again, if we can identify it, so this is not something I'm currently using, it's something I hope to be. And then again, it just we need to put some kind of parameter on it. So will I for sure use this in the next year? And if you're like, no, I don't know. And then the minimalists have another question that's good. Could I replace this for $20 and in 20 minutes? So again, is it a fairly inexpensive item and fairly easy to come by? And if the answer is yes, I could replace it for under $20 and in 20 minutes, then you agree that you're going to let it go. Now, often the pushback is then, but wait, I don't want to have to rebuy all of this stuff. And the simple answer is you don't. You never do end up buying this stuff back because again, it was for your fantasy self. It was something we thought we should be or could be. And really for us as Americans, we only use 20% of the stuff in our home. 80% is clutter. It's useless. It's fantasy self. It's someday should, could, just in case. And if we will be willing to be brave enough to move that stuff out, like I did 9 years ago, you are going to find a house that you love, that is easy to manage. Like I say, your house shouldn't be hard. No matter what season, whether you have 3 kids, 4 kids, 8 kids, your house should feel manageable. And so if you're willing to get the inventory down to this point, it is going to be easy. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be peaceful. Yes. Is there a trade off? We let go of some stuff. Could I need it in the future? Yeah, there's that chance. But I'm going to risk that and for sure get the peace and the organization, and I'm gonna risk that because this is a guarantee. This is just a who knows if that'll ever happen.
Have you had any regrets in, over your many years now
Mhm.
of getting rid of things and that? Have you had any regrets about getting rid of the stuff?
I love that question. So, I mean, like I said, we got rid of 80%. I would say now it's 85%. So, thousands of items I have decluttered over the years. I can list on one hand the number of things. There was like a camera charger I got rid of because I didn't know what it was for. I'm like, gone. And you know, a month later, I'm like, oh, that's what that was for. A pair of pants. I like, there's so few things. And I think one time when I added it up, it was less than $100 worth of things. And so, no, I don't miss any of it. If anything, I think, "Oh, I wish I would have done that sooner." And that's what I hear from so many women when they declutter and they go further than they thought they would. They're like, "Wow, I didn't even know this was possible. I didn't know that I would feel more confident. I would feel like what I experienced was I felt like a better mom. I didn't realize how much that stuff was beating me up. When I would see the family room with all the kids' toys mixed in with dirty laundry, mixed in with dirty dishes, you know, and I did not realize what that was telling me, again, going back to that silent to-do list was not only pick me up, clean me up, but you suck as a mom. You're not a good mom. You're not a good wife, probably either. You don't follow through with things that you say you're going to do. You're kind of lazy. And I was just like, whoa. Once I moved that stuff out, I was like, wow, I had no idea like the messages that was sending and how it was degrading my sense of self-worth. And so it's hard to describe sometimes the benefits of decluttering your house. It is so much better and greater than I would have ever imagined. And I know for any woman listening who is tired and overwhelmed and just feeling like motherhood and keeping a house is so hard, I believe with every fiber in my being that if you will do the same process, if you'll, you know, dedicate some time and tackle your storage space in your kitchen and your kids' clothes and their toys, that you will feel completely different in your house and it'll be worth every hard decision that you had to make.
I keep coming back to my junk drawer. Like 2 years ago, one of my sons and I, like, we did the junk drawer, and it took 2 hours.
Okay.
Not I mean, 2 there was so much stuff in there, it took 2 hours, but that junk drawer has stayed. Like, 2
Mm.
years later, it looks like every once in a while, they'll get a few too many pens, and I'll, like,
Mhm.
take them out, but, like, it has stayed, and I always think, like, if my whole house could be like this drawer, like, it would be so easy. Like,
Yeah.
everything is just where it is, where I know
Mhm.
where everything is. Like, I open up, I'm like, "Oh, yes, here's this," and
Mhm.
then I put it back. Like, I want that for my
Yeah.
whole house.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanna teach my kids too, because I don't
Right.
wanna pass I come from a long line of savers of things,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I really do wanna, like, help them learn how to, like,
Mhm.
treasure and protect what's important, but not every single thing.
Yes. No, that's so good, and I think about that a lot with our kids too, because in the beginning, I worried, like, would people think we're weird? What if they go over to a friend's house and they see stuff? And that did happen, fairly early on. Our 2 oldest daughters went to a friend's house, and the girl had the whole Barbie dream house and all the furniture and all the Barbies and everything, and they came back home, and I was like and they were telling me about it, and I was like, "Oh, no, what have I done?" You know, like, the kids are gonna come to our house, they're gonna have nothing to talk about, right? But what I realized, I was like, "Oh, they're not necessarily saying they want that. They're just observing. They're just reporting back what they experienced." And what's funny now, our oldest is 14, and she'll sometimes go to other people's houses and friends' houses, and she comes back and she was like and she'll tell me, and she was like, "Mom, I'm so glad our house is so simplified. Like, this is what it felt like when I was in their house." And again, I'm not getting down on any moms that are listening and like, "Oh, I won't want your daughter to come to our house." It's not like that. It's just a really good conversation of like noticing now, like, what does that feel like? What would that be like? And she already now has an appreciation. So what I feared in the beginning was like, "Oh no, we're going to be weird and they're going to resent me for this," is the complete opposite. They're grateful for it too. And I think our kids are going to have to deal with even more inventory than we've ever had to. It's never been easier to acquire stuff. Never been easier. And so if we can teach them these skills now, sometimes it's a little bumpy, it's not perfect, but if we keep working at it, we model it, we have conversations about it, we help them with it, man, we their life and their house is going to be completely different too.
Well, Dawn, I appreciate your wisdom, I appreciate your advice, I will report back
Yeah.
on
I
how
can't
it
wait to
went.
see your progress. I want to see pictures.
Yes, I will send you pictures, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing this with everyone who's gonna watch this, and I strongly recommend they follow your channel and
Thank
soak
you.
up all of the wisdom that you've acquired on this topic over the years.
Thank
So,
you. I
thank you
really
so
appreciate
much.
it. Yeah, thank you.